Hello, book friends. I'm Jen, and welcome to my reading life and happy Vlogmas. Today, I am back with another Bookish Conversation chat, and today my guest is my lovely friend Melissa. You can find Melissa both on Instagram and here on YouTube at A Duchess Inside. And I'm going to let Melissa introduce herself, but she is another kindred spirit reader friend of mine, and we had the most delightful conversation, and I can't wait for you to hear about all the books that we shared and Melissa's favorites and some holiday recommendations as well. So grab your warm beverage and let's get on into this bookish conversation with Melissa. Hi, Melissa. Welcome.
And thanks so much for having me. It's really fun
I
to
am
hear.
so thrilled to have you here today. Why don't we start off? Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your reading life?
Okay. So I'm Melissa. You can find me on Instagram and from a couple years ago on YouTube under A Duchess Inside. I live in the Houston area and I work in human resources. And as far as my reading life, I've just always been a reader. And then what else is going on? I have 4 cats. So
Yeah,
if you see any of them hopping in and out of the screen, I'll introduce them.
absolutely. And you love to decorate. I do have to share that Melissa designed my reading room
It
here.
looks so pretty. No, you
Yeah.
did so much of it too. I just gave you a few ideas, but
Oh,
it
more
looks
than a few
so
ideas. I would have been so lost without you.
Oh,
So,
I'm
like,
glad. I'm glad I could help you. It was fun.
well, I'd love now if you wanted to share some of your favorite books and authors with us.
Sure.
You know, we
All
love
right.
books here.
We do. So I did
Bring all those recommendations.
All right. So favorite. So I love Lucy Maud Montgomery.
Mhm.
I've loved her since I was a little kid reading the Anne series.
Mhm.
But really pretty much all her books I really have enjoyed that I've read. The Emily of New Moon series is good.
Mhm.
The Pat of Silverbush and Mistress Pat, the duology, those are really good as well.
Mhm.
And The Blue Castle is one of my favorites
Yes,
of all time. Yeah.
I love that.
Another favorite author, Rosamunde Pilcher, who I know we have in common.
Yes.
So she's a pretty new to me author. I only started reading her a few years ago.
Mhm.
And Kate Howe had a read along of Coming Home.
Mhm.
And that was one of those authors where I read it and go, where have you been all my life? I should
Right.
have been reading you for years because it was
Mhm.
just my cup of tea.
Yep.
Yeah, the coziness and the domesticity and the warmth and like found family and
Yes,
it's just the best.
it is. She is.
So I love Coming Home. I love all her big books and even some of her
Mhm.
like, shorter books, but those big chunky ones are the
Yes,
best. The
they
Shall
are.
See Close and September and Coming Home
Yep.
and Winter Solstice.
Yes. Perfect for this time of year.
Another one I know we have in common is Kate Morton.
Yes,
I love Kate Morton,
me
and she's
too.
again another one that I was like, wow, this is what I should have been reading is this kind of thing, not that literary fiction. And then maybe I
Right.
never would have had that for years.
Yep.
But who knew, it's like I
Mhm.
feel like these are authors that are kind of comparable on an adult level to the kind of books I liked as a child.
Right.
They give me that same feeling of
Mhm.
being excited and immersed in this world and these characters that I'm
Mhm.
looking for.
I love
Um,
that. I think that's really insightful because I think I find that same thing. Like the things I'm drawn to now are similar to things I was drawn to as a child. Like I love a plucky heroine, you know? I mean, whatever the story is, if there is a plucky heroine in it, I am sold.
100%. Yeah. And I've always used to love, I think that's why I really loved like Little House on the Prairie books or, um, I read Gone with the Wind when I was a little kid and it was
Mm.
like just the detail of the time period, the
Mhm.
clothes, the food they were eating. That's
Mhm.
what you want to read as a kid. And I still want to read that. I still want
Right.
to be in that world.
Yes.
And then Kate Morton, she's reminds me in some ways of like Daphne du Maurier or
Mhm.
um, maybe like Victoria Holt or Mary Stewart, the ones who write or mystery romance type books,
Right.
gothic type fiction. And it knows how to tell a good story and she knows how to get into those details
Mhm.
that make you feel like you're there. And she's just
Yes.
wonderful. And it's so good because she's still writing
I know.
and she's still fairly young. So many of my favorites are long gone.
Mhm.
So
I
it's
know.
nice to have someone to look forward to a new book from
Yes.
them in a few years.
Yes, it's so true because I find, a lot of the books I'm drawn to, which I know you're drawn to as well, are by authors who are no longer living. And so there's a finite number of books you have to read
Right?
by them. So when you find a modern author who's still writing, who evokes that same kind of feeling for you, I think, that's exciting because then
It
you have,
really
like you
is.
said, so much to look forward to.
It is, yeah. And you just feel like there's a kindred spirit out there in the world writing for you, and that's a great feeling.
It really is.
It really is. And then some classics I really love, Edith Wharton. As you know, we've been reading some
Yes,
Edith Wharton together lately.
have.
The Age of Innocence, I love. The House
Mhm.
of Mirth, The Custom of the Country.
Mhm.
She's such an amazing writer, and another one that's very insightful into people
Yes.
and things that resonate still today, even though they were set, in the early
Yes.
night
And she
early.
seems very modern.
She has a very readable style, but very insightful and
Yes.
relevant, I think,
Hmm.
still. Um,
Absolutely.
I also love F. Scott Fitzgerald, and
Mm.
I keep meaning to get back more into reading more of his books, but I love The
Hmm.
Great Gatsby. I know
Hmm.
that's kind of divisive. Some people hate it, but I love it. I think it's just this perfect jewel of a book that's just
Hmm.
amazing.
Right.
And Tender as the Night, which I
Hmm.
really loved and read during my everything about France phase because it's set in the
Right.
Riviera. And
Yes.
so I'm hoping to reread that one again soon.
Hmm.
And Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. Jane is my favorite heroine probably of all time.
Same.
Adore her. And Jane Austen. I love Jane Austen. So I'm looking forward to January with
Yay.
so
Yes.
that's kind of just the tip of the iceberg, but those are some
Hmm.
of my very favorites.
Absolutely. Well, we share so many favorites, and
Yeah.
Melissa and I are very much kindred spirit, reading spirits, and just life spirits. So I think we
Well, we
very
got
much
in here and we both have the same
we
similar
do.
month today without planning. So we'll see
Yes.
how things go with us.
Can you give us any good recommendations for books to read in the holiday season, winter months? What are some of your favorites? Because I know
Okay.
you're a seasonal reader like I
I
am.
am. I
Yes.
do like to read seasonally.
Yes.
So this is A Holiday by Gaslight by Mimi Matthews. So I read this last year
Hmm.
and just loved it. And it's another really short little novella, so you can get through it in no time. Uh,
Hmm.
very sweet and romantic and sort of similar in tone and setting to North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I just really enjoy this one. I think you would like it.
Yeah.
Um, Another historical romance I really like is Marion's Christmas Wish by Carla Kelly.
Hmm.
It was written in the 90s, I think. Let's see. So it says Miss Marion Winswich had not been raised to be a proper young lady. Instead, she had been educated to be as good as any man in everything from reading Greek to playing chess. Thus, it was with dismay that she saw that what falling in love could do to the most sensible of females when she watched her sister turn giddy. Now she would vowed she would never commit that folly, which of course, what comes next?
Of course.
This is just a really fun, charming little book, and it's a no steam,
No
no
steam.
spiciness if that's
Okay.
to you. So it's
Sounds
really
good.
fun. Last year I read this collection by Truman Capote,
Oh.
A Christmas Memory, and it also
Hmm.
includes One Christmas and The Thanksgiving Visitor. So I think A Christmas Memory is the most famous of the stories in this book, but it's based on his own life when he was a little boy, and the aunt that he lived with
Hmm.
who was really close to him. And it's just a very sweet and touching kind of story. And I really like Truman Capote's writing. So,
Yes. That's been on
and
my TBR for so long. I'm so glad
yeah,
you recommended that because
really
I haven't heard
good.
many people talk about it.
Yeah, and I don't know why, because
Yeah.
they're really touching and good and well written.
Hmm.
And just three little quick short stories that you can
Right.
get in the holiday season. So
Yes.
definitely recommend them. And then, of course, I can't go without mentioning Winter Solstice, which is just the best thing to read this time of year.
Hmm.
If you have a little bit of time to just cuddle up with your hot chocolate and
Hmm.
dive into this world. So it's really just a story of found family at the holidays and some people who
Hmm.
through from different generations. I love that too. I love intergenerational
Yes.
friendships. And um, so you have people that really have just met kind of by accident or they're somewhat related or whatever. And
Hmm.
there's circumstances they end up living in the same house during the holidays. And
Hmm.
it's just wonderful.
It is.
I can't recommend it enough. And
I second
our
that.
beautiful Rosamunde Pilcher.
Yes. Yes. Fantastic. Well, those sound absolutely wonderful. My December TBR, I was gonna try and keep it nice and short, and then I keep adding to my pile.
Always happens,
It
but
does.
there's always next Christmas.
There is. There is, absolutely. So many books, so little time. Okay, so we're gonna end with recommending some books to each other, and I'll start us off if that's
Okay,
okay. I'm
I'm
dying to
excited.
recommend
I
this
want to
person.
know what you got for me.
I have, oh, let me pull them up here. And I have no idea if Melissa has read these or not. None of these I don't think appeared on your Goodreads, so I'm hoping you haven't read them yet. And I'm just gonna dive in. There's a little bit of kind of a flow to this, but we'll just see as we go along. So the first one I want to recommend to you is one that I just read this year, but I think that you would really love it, and that is Near Neighbors by Molly Clavering. Have you read this?
Haven't, but I have a copy.
You do.
Yes.
Fantastic. So I really think this is, again, just like those found family stories that you really love. I think that this will just kind of suit the bill. So we have our protagonist is Miss Balfour, and her older sister has just passed away, and her older sister sort of ruled the roost with an iron fist. And so their life was very small. They didn't have a lot of friends or social life. And now that the sister has passed away, suddenly Miss Balfour's life opens up. And
Mm.
there's a family that lives next door that she's really kind of fascinated by. There are, I think, 3 girls and a boy and their mother, and she's sort of been watching their lives unfold next door. And then one of the girls is prompted to come over and give condolences because they've heard about her sister, and the story sort of unfolds from there, about this relationship that develops between her and the family next door. And then there is a man who sort of comes into the picture, but it's unclear at first, is he a good guy, is he not a good guy? And you kind of watch all that unfold as well. And it's so heartwarming, it's so touching, and I really think you would love this one.
Sounds perfect. I'm
Yes,
really excited to read it.
good.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
all
love the
right.
Deep Street Press. They have some really good ones.
Oh, they're just the best. And Molly Clavering and D.E. Stevenson were friends, and you can definitely tell that in her
Yeah,
writing
that's
style, right?
interesting.
Yes,
Yeah, that'll be going on the list to read.
fantastic.
Yay.
Okay, now this next one I am 99.9% sure you have not read, and that is The Garden of Small Beginnings by Abby
Oh,
Waxman.
I
So
haven't read that one
you
yet.
haven't read this one. Perfect. In this one, we're following, let's see, what is her? Lillian Gervan. And she's a single mom. Her husband has passed away. Her boss signs her up for a gardening class because she's an illustrator. And so the boss wants her to sort of like, get some ideas about plants and how to draw them and all that kind of stuff. So, and anyway, as a result of signing up for this class, she meets other people taking the class, and again, it's got that very much found family vibe. She's sort of struggling a little bit in her life with, just she's had some hard times, obviously. But I really love the relationships in here. Lillian is just such a lovely character.
That sounds really good. I'm
Yes.
excited to read that one.
Okay.
Thank you.
Fantastic. The next book is another one that I discovered and read this year and just absolutely loved. And I don't think you've read this one, but that is Sipsworth by Simon Van Buie.
No, but I've heard you talk about it, and Meg from
Yeah.
Meg's Reading. What is her
Meg's Reading Room. Yep.
reading
That's
room?
where I heard about it too. It is about, we have an older protagonist, and what is her name? Helen Cartwright, and she has returned to England. She has been living in, I think, Australia or New Zealand with her husband and son for many, many, many years. And she's come back to England towards she's in her 70s or 80s. And she's had some things happen in her life that haven't been wonderful. And she's sort of just going through the motions of living, not really living life. She sticks to her routine. She doesn't leave her house much. She watches TV a lot of the time. And then something comes into her life that changes everything. And again, there is found family. There's going to be some maybe hard things that go on in this book,
Yeah.
but I promise you it's all going to work out in the end. Even if you just, I mean, right to the bitter end, you might be thinking, Jen, did you lead me astray? And I promise I have not.
It sounds wonderful.
Yes, you
I
will
love
just, it's just one of those books you want to hug when you finish. Like it
I
just,
love a huggable book.
yeah,
It's the
it's
best.
so lovely. And I actually listened to it on audio and then I needed to get a physical copy because I want to read the physical book and annotate it because it was just, there's so many lovely passages in here. So I think you'll really love this one.
Wonderful. Thank you.
You're
Looking forward to it.
welcome. Okay. The next book I have is actually one I haven't read for a long time. And I don't think you've read this one, but I think it might be up your alley. And that is The Love Letter by Kathleen Shine. Have you?
No, I haven't.
Okay. This is about a woman, Helen McFarcar. She owns a tiny bookstore in a seaside town. So right there,
Yes, yeah, check.
right? Um, and her life is just kind of going along. And then one day, an anonymous love letter arrives in the mail for her, written by, well, it's not written to her. You're not sure who it's written to exactly because, it's sort of like to my beloved or whatever might be. And so she becomes sort of obsessed with finding out where this letter came from, who it goes to. And you just get to meet her. You get to meet the cast of characters in her small town, and kind of go along with her as she discovers the mystery of this love letter. And I just think this is a book that you would really enjoy.
Sounds really interesting. That
Yeah.
cover is so pretty too. How it
Isn't
looks
it? I
like love. Yeah,
know.
that's
It's
really
beautiful. Yeah. So
yeah. I have to
again,
check that one out. I don't even think I've heard of that.
I know it's one of those sort of like under the radar gems. Like it was really popular when it first came out. And I think I maybe found out about it because I worked in a bookstore at the time. And so it was popular, so I was like, oh, well, I have to read this. But, it's one of those ones that just kind of has slipped away, but I think it's worth the read. So,
Okay, I will check it out. Thank you.
okay. And then my last two books are holiday books for you since it is that time of the year. Both of them are quite short. And the first one, because we are both cat lovers, so I had to recommend something that had a cat in it. And this is The Cat Who Came for Christmas by Cleveland Amory. Have you read this?
Oh, I haven't.
Oh, yay.
I don't know if I've
Fantastic.
heard of it.
Yes. So this is about Cleveland Amory and this cat that came into his life on Christmas Eve. He's a self-confessed curmudgeon and a confirmed dog owner. And he finds himself in an alleyway with a cat that clearly needs some help and care. And so he ends up taking the cat home with him. And it is all about Cleveland Amory and his cat. And it does start at Christmas, but it actually takes place, I think it goes throughout the whole year, and I think it ends up again on the following Christmas. So we sort of get a whole year's worth of his
Oh,
life
good.
with this cat. And it's just, it's really charming. If you're a cat lover, you will love this book. It
Okay,
is,
I'll have to check that out. It
yeah,
sounds really sweet. Yeah.
it's just wonderful. And again, it's quite short. It won't take you very long to read, and I think it's just perfect for the holiday season cat lover.
Perfect. That's
Yes,
me.
yes. And then my last recommendation is a children's book. I just adored this book, and it is just short. You can just sit down, have a cup of tea, and read through it. But it's such a heartwarming story, and that is The Story of Holly and Ivy by Rumer Godden. Have you read this?
Oh, I haven't.
Okay. This is one of my very favorite childhood books. I just adore the story of a little girl and a doll, both of whom maybe need something in their life. And it's just about what happens to the two of them. And it's just this edition. I had this exact edition as a child.
So cute. It looks very cute and vintage.
It is. And it's just got these lovely, like, red and green and black and
Oh,
white
I love
pictures
that.
in it. And it's just the perfect story for the holiday season, and I think it'll just warm your heart. So,
I've got to find that one. Yeah, the only rumor garden I've read is Black Narcissus, which seems quite different than this.
yes, she is such an eclectic writer. I mean,
Yeah, no kidding.
I finally read The Green Gage Summer this summer, and it was not what I
Yeah.
was expecting.
Oh,
So,
I haven't read that one,
it's
but yeah.
yeah. But this,
a wide variety of
yeah,
styles, I guess. Yeah.
she does. This one I definitely, and she's written some children's books and some adult, so she kind of she's done a lot. So
I'm going to
yeah.
check that out.
All right, so those are my recommendations.
Okay, it's my turn.
Yeah.
I'm excited. Okay. So first, I'm going to try to convince you to read A Wonderful Historical Romance,
Okay.
my very, very favorite one.
All right.
And I even went and pulled out my copy that has a more normal looking cover because the original cover from the 90s has Fabio on it. But don't let that
Oh,
stop you from reading it.
okay. Oh, I love Fabio.
It's a nice chunky. It's by Laura Kinsale. It's called Flowers from the Storm.
Mhm.
Laura Kinsale is a cut above any other romance writer I've ever read. I love her dearly, and I love all her books pretty much, but this is the best one. So I would say this is a good book for anybody, even if you don't think you like historical romance. If you like character-driven stories set in kind of, I think this takes place in the early 1800s. Um, it's just a good book, period.
Mhm.
So the heroine is a Quaker young
Okay.
woman who this takes place in London. She's a Quaker. She's very devout. Her father is a blind mathematician. She takes care of him. Um, and through her father's being this mathematician, she is put in touch with another mathematician who happens to be a duke. He's an aristocrat, and he's living the aristocratic life with all that that entails.
Mhm.
So she looks very down on him for his lack of morals. Um, so um, through he actually has a stroke early on in the book
Oh gosh.
and disappears. They think he has died, and circumstances lead to one thing to another, and she meets him again when he is in an asylum
Mhm.
and going through a horrible experience. And she feels, as a Quaker, this calling to help him.
Mhm.
So the story is about her interacting with him, getting to know him, trying to help him recover, and the changes that it brings to both of them. It is just full of drama and angst and romance and goodness. It's so good. And I
Love
don't know
it.
if I'm explaining it well. I mean, anytime I've told someone like, yeah, it's a book about a Quaker and a Duke, that would sound ridiculous, but it's so emotional and beautifully written. And I've recommended it to so many friends, and they
Mhm.
always love it. And they're like, I never thought I would like that book, but it's one of my favorites now.
I I'm sold. You've recommended it, so I am sold.
And my name, A Duchess Inside, that I use is from this book.
How
I've
is
read
it?
it before, but that's how much I love this book because
Love it.
I've read it multiple times. It's fun. It's funny at times. It's
Mhm.
heartbreaking, and just the way that she's able to get into these people's minds, especially his mind as he's recovering from this stroke, and he's has
Mhm.
aphasia where he has a hard time talking.
Mhm.
So he still has his mind, he still has his intelligence, but he
Right.
cannot communicate anymore. And so people start trying to take advantage of him,
Mm.
and she's trying to help him. And at
Mhm.
the same time, she's struggling with how can I be getting emotions towards this man he stands for everything I disagree with.
Right.
So it's a real moral and kind of religious struggle for her on
Mhm.
top of. So it's really complicated. And I think sometimes people think historical romances are just fluff, and some of them
Right.
are.
Mhm.
This one, it has a lot of depth to it, and it's just
Lovely.
very readable. I love
Yeah.
it. So,
Sounds fantastic. Oh, I'm excited.
so the next ones I want to recommend to you are a trilogy
Mhm.
by Michelle Cooper. The first one is called A Brief History of Montgomery, and then it has two more: The Fitz-Osborns in Exile and The Fitz-Osborns at War. And let's see. So it really reminds me a lot of I Captured the Castle by Dodie
Mhm.
Smith. So
Well,
they're told in written in journal form as well, similarly. So it
mhm.
says Sophie Fitz-Osborne lives in a crumbling castle in the tiny island kingdom of Montmoray, along with her tomboy younger sister Henry, her beautiful intellectual cousin Veronica, and Veronica's father, the completely mad King John. When Sophie receives a journal for her 16th birthday, she decides to write about her life on the island. But it is 1936 and bigger events are on the horizon. Everything Sophie knows and loves is about to change. So just it follows the family through the
Mhm.
and they're really so interesting and engaging, and I think they're the kind of book that you would enjoy because you like I Captured the Castle,
I
right?
love I Capture the Castle. And
Yeah.
actually, so I have that first book because you recommended it on
Oh,
your,
really?
yes, I bought it like not long ago. I haven't read it yet. So
Okay.
maybe
Well,
I
put it
think
on
January
the
might be
list.
the time
Yeah.
for it. Yes.
Yeah, it's always nice when you have, and then, the further books are even chunkier. So if you like this one, there's more
Right.
goodness to come.
Fantastic. Well, I love I Capture the Castle. I like anything written in journal format, diary format, epistolary, any of those. Yes, that checks my box. Family stories, yes.
Good. And the next one is Greenery Street by Dennis McHale.
Oh,
So this is a Persephone. Sorry,
mm-hmm.
full cover.
So beautiful.
So I just love this book. And this is one that I've had on my shelves. I mean, I probably had on my shelf for 10 plus years without
Mhm.
reading it. And then Gina at Bab's Beloved Books,
Yes,
Gina,
I do
she
know
read
Gina.
it and she was like, "This is so good. I just loved it." And so it made me want to read it. So I read
Hmm.
it last year, I think, and it was one of the top books of my year. So it's
Fantastic.
basically set during the interwar years. This is like my
Hmm.
favorite time period,
Yes.
probably, in England. And it's a newlywed couple. They're sort of upper middle class,
Hmm.
and it's them in their first flat together,
Hmm.
getting adjusted to being married. And it has such a funny and heartwarming tone, and
Hmm.
it's just charming. I mean, honestly, right now I couldn't tell you the details of what happened. It's kind of slice of life.
Hmm.
It's like them getting used to being together, setting up their house, their
Hmm.
first little arguments, but they love each other, and
Hmm.
it's just sweet. And I think it's based on the author's actual marriage in his
Oh,
early marriage. Um,
fantastic.
so I just think you would love it.
Yes. I have
Yeah,
heard of that one, but I'm gonna have to add that to my Persephone stack because that sounds amazing.
really good. I think you would enjoy it a lot.
Yes.
I have one more for you, which I
Okay.
hope or haven't already read, but it's a good Dean Street Press.
Oh, no, I
Miss
haven't read that one.
Carter and the Freet by
Mhm.
Susan Alice Kirby.
Okay.
So this is an really unusual book. It's the final months of World War II, and Georgina Carter, a single woman in her late 40s with a drab job in the censorship office, is convinced that nothing very shattering, nothing very devastating could happen to one after that age. But then she buys some wood blocks from a blitzed roadway, one of which, when burned in her fireplace, releases a long imprisoned Ifrit. Don't call him a genie, eager to do her bidding. And he takes her on a dizzying hurdle through space to visit a beloved nephew in Canada. So it's just like it's so surreal, but it's
Right.
so a good slice of life of post-war London and
Hmm.
sort of the deprivations. And then, of course, we love a spinster heroine
Yes.
um, who is down on her luck and thinks everything's boring, nothing interesting is ever going to happen to me.
Hmm.
And then she meets this genie, basically, uh, and she names him Joe, and he just creates havoc in her life. So it's really funny and kind of wacky, but it's also surprisingly touching, and it has some philosophical depth to it as well. But
Hmm.
it's just really fun, and I was like, "What is this book?" But as I got further, I was just loved it. It was so
Oh,
fun.
that
I think
sounds
I think you
wonderful.
like this one, yeah,
Yes, absolutely. Well, I love the Dean Street Press Furrowed Middlebrow imprint, so
exactly.
that sounds right up my alley. I'm so excited. I'm gonna put all those on my Christmas wish list.
Perfect.
Yay. Fantastic. Well, this was so much fun. I wish we lived closer so that we could
Me
hang out
too.
and,
I know.
go book shopping and you could help me decorate my house.
Thank
But
goodness for the internet.
yes, I know. I know. So yeah, I mean, that is the lovely thing about the internet is that it brings us together with people we never otherwise would have met. So
Absolutely.
I'm so thankful for that. So
Thank you.
yes. Well, thank you so much for coming on and talking books with me. You gave so many wonderful recommendations. And I will have all of Melissa's books that she discussed today linked in the description box below for those of you interested in checking any of them out. Well, this was so much fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jen.
Bye.
Bye.
And that wraps up this bookish conversation. I hope you enjoyed my chat with Melissa. She is absolutely delightful. She has a wonderful taste in books, and you should absolutely go check out her Instagram account. She also has wonderful taste in interior design, and her home is so lovely. She has the most adorable cats, and it's just all around lots and lots of lovely bookish goodness and cozy, comforting goodness, and you should definitely give her a follow. And though she's not really active on YouTube right now, definitely go check out some of her videos. She has some cozy vlog videos, and I will link one of those down in the description box below so you can check that out as well. So thank you to Melissa. It was so lovely to have you here on my channel. And make sure you guys come back in January, because there is going to be a second part to this bookish conversation, because Melissa and I had so much to talk about. I could not fit it all in this video. So there will be a part 2 coming soon. Melissa and I would love to chat with all of you down in the comments. Love to hear your thoughts on Melissa's favorite books, her recommendations, her holiday recommendations in particular. So definitely share your thoughts about all the bookish goodness down in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, if you could give it a like, that would be lovely. And also hit that subscribe button if you aren't already subscribed and you'd like to see more bookish content from me. And as always, I'll be back very soon with another Vlogmas video. Bye!